That night, a violent storm swallowed the isolated Blackwood Manor. Rain hammered the windows while thunder shook its ancient stone walls. Inside, pale yellow lamps barely touched the endless shadowed corridors. Then a strange crash echoed from the master's private study.
A frightened maid hurried toward the sound and tried the door. It would not move because it was locked from the inside. She called the others, and together they forced the heavy door. What waited beyond it silenced every person in the hallway.
The master sat motionless beside his desk, already dead. Loose papers covered the carpet like fragments of a broken secret. A drinking glass lay overturned near one trembling hand. Beside the chair, a large pool of water reflected the firelight. A tiny wound marked the center of the victim's chest.
It was small, clean, and deep enough to kill instantly. Yet no knife, needle, or weapon could be found anywhere. The study door remained locked, and the windows were firmly sealed. Even the room's only key was lying inside the study. A murder had occurred where no murderer could possibly enter.
Before midnight, Detective Elias Ward arrived through the pouring rain. He removed his wet coat and silently studied every frightened face. Unlike the others, he did not begin with the body. His attention settled first on the mysterious water beside the chair.
The overturned glass could not have held such a large amount. Rainwater was impossible because the window frame remained completely dry. Therefore, the water had appeared after the room was locked. Detective Ward knelt beside the victim and examined the clothing.
The hole in the shirt was narrow, smooth, and unusually precise. Something sharp had pierced straight through cloth, flesh, and bone. But the weapon itself had vanished without leaving a single fragment. How could a
The
killer
woman in
remove it
red
from a
admitted
sealed
arguing
room?
with the victim earlier.
That question turned every
She
witness
claimed
into a
she'd left the
possible
study
suspect.
long before the fatal moment. An older man confessed that money had damaged their friendship. Other relatives insisted they remained inside their bedrooms during the storm.
The maid said she only delivered tea before hearing the crash. One young man, however, could barely control his nervous breathing. He avoided the detective's eyes and answered every question too quickly. His name was Adrian Vale, the victim's troubled young nephew.
Each witness offered an explanation that sounded reasonable on its own, but the detective sensed that everyone was hiding something important. The master had recently changed several legal and financial documents. Names were crossed out, signatures replaced, and payments suddenly canceled.
Someone inside the manor was about to lose everything. More than one person had wished the master permanently silent. Detective Ward returned to the study and closed the door. He inspected the lock, the hinges, and every wooden panel. No wire had turned the key from outside the room.
No hidden passage waited behind the bookshelves or painted walls. The windows had not opened, and the chimney was far too narrow. Then the detective slowly raised his eyes toward the ceiling. Above the chair was a square iron ventilation grill.
The victim's position stood almost perfectly beneath that dark opening. For the first time, the impossible murder gained a possible direction. Ward requested the manor's original architectural plans from the basement. The ventilation shaft connected the study to an unused upper service area.
A narrow storage loft ran directly above the locked room. Near that loft, investigators discovered an old wooden ladder. Most of its steps carried a thick blanket of undisturbed dust, but several marks had been freshly rubbed by hands and shoes.
Someone had climbed that ladder during the night of the murder.
The dust near the ventilation cover had also been recently disturbed. A faint shoe pattern appeared beside the edge of the shaft. Detective Ward removed the grill and searched the dark passage. Deep inside, cold drops of water clung to the metal. They were too clean and too cold to be storm water.
Scratches showed the grill had been opened, then quickly replaced. Now the water, the wound, and the ceiling became connected. But one final question remained. What had traveled through the shaft? The detective searched the kitchen, laundry room, and servants' hall.
Inside the freezer, he found a strangely shaped empty mold. It was long, narrow, and pointed like a deadly spike. Fresh frost proved that something had recently been frozen inside it. In the laundry room, damp clothing had been hidden beneath towels.
No one admitted wearing those clothes outside during the storm. Yet the fabric carried cold moisture and gray ventilation dust. The stains perfectly matched the residue inside the upper shaft. Then Ward examined Adrian Vale's shoes beside the fireplace.
Their soles carried the same pattern found on the dusty ladder. At last, every separate clue formed one complete and terrible method. The murder weapon had never been removed from the locked room. It had simply destroyed itself after completing its deadly purpose.
Adrian had created a sharp spike entirely from frozen water. He kept it hidden inside the freezer until the final moment. Every evening, the master worked beneath the same ventilation opening. He also locked the study door to protect his private documents.
Adrian understood that habit and turned it into the perfect trap. During the thunder, he carried the ladder into the upper loft. The storm concealed every footstep, scrape, and movement above the room. He opened the grill and lowered the frozen spike into position.
From the shaft, he struck without ever entering the study.
The weapon pierced the victim's chest and caused immediate death. Adrian withdrew his tools, replaced the grill, and hid the ladder. He believed the locked door would make the crime supernatural. But he had forgotten the blazing fireplace beside the victim.
Heat slowly melted the weapon after it fell into the room. The ice became water and gathered beside the dead man's chair. That explained the missing weapon and the strangely clean wound. It also explained why the pool was larger than the glass.
Before the household, Detective Ward reconstructed the entire impossible crime. He showed them the locked door, sealed windows, and ceiling grill. He revealed the disturbed ladder, the freezer mold, and damp clothing. He placed Adrian's shoe beside the matching print in the dust.
Together, they created only one path, leading directly to Adrian. The young man's face drained of color as the truth emerged. The altered documents proved his inheritance was about to disappear. The master had threatened to expose debts Adrian could never repay.
Anger, fear, and desperation had shaped his cold-blooded plan. He trusted melting ice to erase every trace of the weapon. He never imagined that melted water would become the strongest evidence. Confronted with the dust, shoes, clothing, and freezer, Adrian surrendered.
Police led him from the manor before the storm had ended. The remaining guests watched in silence, shocked by his hidden hatred. Near dawn, the rain weakened and the clouds began to separate. Detective Ward stepped outside as sunlight touched the ancient roof.
Behind him, the locked room no longer held any mystery. No ghost had crossed the walls, and no magic erased the weapon. There had only been careful planning, frozen steel like ice and heat. A deadly spike had vanished, but its water remained behind.
And sometimes, what disappears becomes the clearest evidence of all.